Hello and welcome back to another episode of Fully Booked, the Hidden Gems author podcast in which Craig Touch, myself, Roland Hume, chat to some interesting figures and leading lights in this crazy industry of writing and publishing. And today I have met my new best friend, Kae Wagner, who has a love of Wyoming just like I do. And we are super excited to talk to you today. Kae, how are you doing?
I am doing great. I'd be much better if I were in Wyoming.
Absolutely. The Wi-Fi might not be as good, depending on where you
are. Yeah.
And of course, we wouldn't be here without the man himself, Craig Touch, the owner and founder of Hidden Gems and an author himself. How are you doing today, Craig?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Roland. Thanks for joining us, Kae. Yeah, I've never been to Wyoming, so I think I've watched. Is that where Yellowstone was filmed? Because I watched.
Yellowstone is Montana.
Yeah. Montana. All right.
Although here's the thing: the place where I go to ride horses in Wyoming, which is on the eastern side of the state, is where they actually filmed a great deal of it.
There you go. So then I do know a lot.
Oh, yeah, all the locals are in on what happened.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Okay. So welcome to the show, and you have had a storied career, right? You were the producer for PM Magazine. You've gotten Telly Awards. You've written books. You have a writers group. So why don't you tell us a bit about yourself and how you ended up where you are now, right here on the show, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, so we'll do the short version, right? So I've been a writer all my life, and it was something that really guided me towards a career in marketing, advertising, sales, etc., from a writing and creative direction perspective. I had a marketing agency for many, many years. I still have it as the kind of the umbrella over everything I do. And so I've written, the first books that I wrote were business books, and I wrote 5 business books before I turned to nonfiction. And that came out of being a writer in marketing. I wrote about marketing, I wrote about branding, leadership, and those books launched me then onto the national speaking circuit. And as a result of that, I then was able to connect with CEOs and VPs of sales and marketing, and it would go kind of like this. We would get our books out there. I got noticed. I got invited to CEO groups. I'd speak to the CEO. About 2 or 3 weeks later, I'd get a call from the VP of marketing who would say, my CEO saw you speaking, and he wants to know more about branding and marketing. And then we go in and we get the account. So I saw the power of books to really move business, to engage clients, to really meet my target market exactly where they were. And we made millions off of books, not off the books themselves, but off of what happened after the books. And so I learned through that experience the value of writing to your market, being very specific about who your reader is, who your target is, and then finding the problem that they need to solve, and then providing a solution for them. So that was before fiction.
I like that, though. That's a very good model if you're an entrepreneur and you want leads and things like that. Having a book gives you so much credibility. But I think that's a great introduction, because books at the end of the day are products, aren't they? And they should provide value to whoever reads them. And so I think that's a very good mindset to have when you move into writing fiction.
Right. And so the interesting thing about that, Roland, is in moving from nonfiction, which I knew the clear path forward, right? It was at the end, it was beyond the book. It was what the book got me to. Then moving into nonfiction, and after, writing and publishing last year 4 books in a series, I'm like, okay, so how do I take this nonfiction series beyond the book, right? Because we know that the math is not always good for books. It's a crowded, competitive market. Thank you, KDP, for doing the very best job in the whole world of setting up a platform for indie authors. The other side of that while we can all publish, that means we can all publish. That means we have a crowded marketplace, and we can maybe talk about that later because there are some ways to cut through that. But in writing fiction, nonfiction, that took me into an entirely different world, an entirely obviously different mode of writing. And fortunately, all of my writing skills came to bear in this series. Book number 1 came out as a bestseller, was in its category in the top 20 for 42 weeks. And I learned a lot about fiction in a very short period of time.
I mean, they're beautiful books, your
Oh,
series. I mean, the covers are gorgeous, and yeah, they look very congruent. Like, one of the things that you want to be when you're successful in writing is you want your book to look like it belongs on the digital bookshelves with all these other books, and yours totally do.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. And you want the series to hold together too. Yeah.
And that's not a skill that is like super easy to get. I know a lot of authors really struggle at to start off with. And do you think your background in like writing, you know, nonfiction, your commercial background there helped? How did you go around even choosing the covers?
The covers?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. You guys would just laugh until you fell over if you saw my process. So what I do, so, you know, I ran an agency, a marketing agency, digital agency, and I was creative director. And so what I would do would be to take, you know, what was in my head, and I would literally draw it out on a piece of 8.5 by 11 paper. And it was like a first grader scrawl. So when I was thinking about the cover of the book, and I was like, okay, how am I going to convey to my designer the look that I'm after, right? So I wrote out a whole thing, and I was just like, I just have to send him a drawing, really. So I sent him my first grade scrawler drawing, right, my rough, and it came back gorgeous. I mean, I love that. When I was doing agency work, that was the highlight of my day, which was to get back this gorgeous, gorgeous, you know, designs. And he just nailed it. And literally, I think I had 2 minor revisions on that cover, and it was good to go.
That's brilliant. I mean, that makes such a difference, because they always say don't judge a book by its cover, but we are literally all, I mean, if you're not familiar with an author, that's how you do it, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, we do that with everything, really. I mean, we judge people by the way they look. We judge, you know, everything in the world by how it looks, because our visualization is so strong.
Yeah, I mean, it says a lot about either you as a conceptual designer, right? You have that skill and ability to convey it even without the technical skills, or it says that you have an amazing, amazing cover artist who gets you.
I think I have an amazing cover artist.
But yeah, I mean, I get it, because like, honestly, I couldn't even, when I used to do, well, I didn't used to really do covers. At the beginning, I did my own covers, but once I started using cover designers, I wouldn't even try to offer them any. So I would just be like, do me a cover, your vision.
Right.
But yeah. So you wrote the whole series, though. It's a 4-part series in just a year or so, right?
Yeah, so that's a little bit of a misnomer. I wrote book 1 in 2023, and then I published that in January and wrote the next 3 and published them. And so all 4 books were published in 2024. Okay. And so the first book took me a little longer, because I went through developmental editing and line and copy editing and proofreading, and I had some hiccups along the way with some editors. But once I hit my stride, I was able to really, I knew when I started with Saturday Night at the Trailer Park, I did not intend for it to be a series at the beginning. But then the story grew, because the story was inspired by my dad, and I wanted to honor my dad and tell this story, right? And so I had this story in my mind for, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years. And I decided, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. And otherwise, just stop thinking about it. So I wrote it. Excuse me. I wrote it. And then I'm like, this story is way bigger than one book. And at the same time, I had been doing a lot of KDP learning, going through the learning curve about indie publishing, and realized that Amazon's algorithm rewards series and will actually market your series for you. And so I'm like, this book has to be a series. The story's too big, and Amazon wants it to be a series. And so I saw Amazon's algorithm, like the power of it, kick in when I got into book 2. And I saw it start appearing as, just released and served up, in a variety of different ways. And then with the testimonial or the reviews growing fairly quickly, Amazon pulled in Goodreads and their reviews. And so there was just a lot of juice and power that the algorithm brought because it was a series.
That's great to know. I mean, I think a lot of people, when they start off, sometimes don't think about writing a series, and that really is, the way to be successful. And I think every author we talk to who is successful has written a series. And you look at the great Lee Child has 25 books in his Jack Reacher series. I mean, how many?
Yeah. So this is the Frankie Girl series. It has 4 books in it, and it is complete. The story is complete. But as of yesterday, I have started and completed the first. I didn't start it yesterday, but I completed the first book in the next series. And that series is more of a standalone series. So each book can, stand on its own. And that gives me the opportunity then to go beyond 4 books. If I want to take that character, that main character, set of characters into, new worlds, new problems, new issues, etc. So we'll see where that leads.
In a lot of ways, a standalone series is a lot easier to sell as well, right? You don't have to always start people at book 1. They can start anywhere in the series, and then if they enjoy it, they'll go back and read the previous ones, as opposed to a series where you have to follow it along. When book 2, when book 3, when book 4 comes out, you've always got to start them back at the beginning, right?
Right.
So how did you do that marketing? What was your strategy for that?
For marketing the series?
Mm-hmm.
So I talked to everyone, every person I knew, every stranger who would listen. And I also, knowing that what you're really going for in a series is read through. And so that book 1 represents way more than book 1. It represents a whole series. It represents continued buying. It represents continued engagement. And so I gave books away. I gave tons and tons and tons of books away. I put a bookmark inside the front cover that had a QR code for the review page. So I was able to really get a lot of reviews from the very beginning. I pushed hard through emails, through groups, through just every avenue I could find. And I was fortunate in that I had a very receptive audience. I had a lot of people who were behind me, really pushing to, make this be successful. And so then it started, how the flywheel, once you get the flywheel started, you get the momentum going. And Amazon, of course, loves to see that the reviews are growing, that the numbers are growing, and that the reviews are good. And so it starts to help you. And I also, at the same time, I did a prequel as a giveaway, as a reader's magnet. And the prequel did really, really well. So I got literally thousands of people added to my list because of the prequel. And then I could do email campaigns to those readers.
Yeah, it's a great strategy. I like that the idea of the bookmark with the QR code that goes to your review page as opposed to your own website or to just the book page, right? That really makes a lot of sense.
Right.
And to have that in your giveaways as well, then that really. So I assume you only gave away book one.
I occasionally gave away some of the other books in the series, but I predominantly, when I order author copies, I order a box of book one, because if I can get people into book one, then my read through will take, rate will take them through the series. So the thing about a series, though, Roland, you kind of touched on, or maybe it was Craig, when a reader sees that a series is not a standalone series, they have to make a decision at some point. It's almost like making a commitment to a series, and not everybody wants to do that. Now, there are people who love series, and so they'll sign up for a series. There are other people who are like, well, I'll read book one and then I'll see.
Right.
And so if you have a standalone, it's true, they can come in at book 10 and then read the backlist, and so that's part of the thinking behind what I have in the next series that I'm working on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm one of those people that I read a lot of science fiction and fantasy, but I look for a series because I want a long. If it's a story I like, I mean, listen, if I read the first book and I'm not into it, that's fine. I can stop. But although you can't really, I'm kind of a completionist. But regardless, I could theoretically stop. But if I like it, then I have a whole bunch of books to read, and that is more exciting to me than say, one book and I'm like, I like it, but now it's over very quickly.
Right. And really, when you think about it, we talked about a book being a product. When you think about your book as products, you think about, okay, so if I were creating a product to sell, and then I think about the marketing of that product, it costs me as much to market one product as it does to market 10 in a product line. And so volume is the key, because you're going to, and especially if you get into Facebook ads or, where you're spending real dollars, not just time and effort, but you really need to, authors need to start thinking about product strategies, not just book strategies, but product strategies. What is the life of this product? How can you go beyond the book, which in marketing, we would call line extension, right? How can you extend beyond the book? In nonfiction, when you go beyond the book, there's tons of money there. Just, because of consulting and coaching. Nonfiction, you've got to have volume if you're going to make any kind of sizable amount of money that you can quit your day job.
When you're selling one book, you make, I don't know, $2-3 profit. But if you sell a series of 10 books, then first of all, you're only marketing that first book. And then if you manage to get somebody to read through first, the second book, third book, fourth book, whatever, that just increases it magnifies everything.
Right. And I think it's the volume, the need for volume, and Amazon's love for volume, for series and volume in your backlist, your catalog. I think some of that might be driving this trend towards shorter books that we're seeing right now. And Amazon loves short books because they sell more of them. And they even have a short book category now. The 2 hour read and the 1 hour read is actually a category you can put in your categories on your publishing page, which I find really interesting that Amazon is pushing for that. But I think that has to do with what we call the attention deficit economy that we're in. We are all overloaded and crashed with so much tugging at our attention, and we have to sort that out somehow. And so if you have a series and you have an author and characters that you like, it really helps, because now you're focused, and you can trust that author and you can trust that series, and you don't have to spend a lot of time making decisions. There's a lot of decision fatigue. What do I want to do? I mean, just the other night, my husband and I were watching Netflix, and we were trying to find a movie to watch because we didn't want to commit to a series, right? because it was already 9 o'clock and I did not want to stay up until 3 in the morning. And we like went through, I don't know how many shows until we found one. You know, and it's like, gosh, could we just pick one now, you know? And so we have this onslaught of options, of choices, which are good. But from a marketing perspective, you have to be able to be distinctive and cut through that.
Yeah. I think short books is one of the, I think it's almost, we've re-engineered how we interpret things and buy things and consume content. Somebody the other day, I was having a conversation with somebody and they were saying like the problem with TV series that run for a long time is often, and Yellowstone is a great example of this, you'll see people and they'll watch these little clips on YouTube shorts or Instagram reels or TikTok, and they'll watch these shorts and love them and love the show, but they won't watch the show. And then they don't get invested in the later series of the show because they like getting these little bite-sized things. And I think there's going to be a huge thing with small books because, you don't have the commitments and sitting down reading a book. You know, unfortunately, these days, who's got the time or the opportunity when you've got 3 kids and a job and this and that?
Exactly. And I don't know if you guys know about this. Do you guys know about verticals?
I know about them in the business world, but not necessarily in terms of what we're talking.
Yeah. Well, verticals in the business world. So verticals is this is for authors to pay attention to. Verticals are emerging as these short series. I would say they're like a short streaming series, and you can find, and they're primarily on apps. And these, excuse me, these series are like 2-minute series. Think about like a soap opera that's like short, 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes. And in total, they might be an hour and a half in 2-minute increments. And so these platforms are just selling literally millions. So you get the first 10 free, the first 10 shorts, the first 10 2 seconds, and then after that you have to pay. And by 10, think about it, you're already invested. And so I think what's going to happen is we're going to see a lot of books, especially romance, translated or transferred into verticals. And they're just emerging. So
well, I mean, it reminds me of the platforms that are selling bits of books, right? Or like,
yes.
Where you pay per episode, and they even call them episodes. And really, and I've sold a few books on those platforms and all we did was break it down to almost like each chapter is an episode. And it's the same model where you're paying 10 for 10, or you're getting the first few for free, and then you've got to pay for the rest. And so that model, definitely. And Amazon had that too with what was it called?
I think they shut that down.
Yeah, they did. They shut it down.
Oh, Vine. I think it was Vine. Was it Vine?
No, not Vine's a review Vine. Platform. It'll come. But
Vellum?
they
was it Vellum? No, not Vellum.
Vellum is a software. Yeah, but it'll come. But yeah. So I mean, that's definitely coming. I hadn't heard about it from the. So it's each show has its own app, or there's an app that has all those kind of things.
So it's like an app where they're all housed, and what I expect to see happen is the apps will become genre oriented. So you'll probably be able to find apps that have all romance, or apps that have all fantasy, or apps that are all thrillers or suspense or mystery or whatever. Because we just want to consume this content really easily, right? Really quickly. And so if you can watch 10 shorts in, 20 minutes, why not? You're on this, subway or waiting for somebody. And the thing is that, to me, it represents a huge market opportunity for authors.
Yeah. I mean, the short novel thing, it's interesting how cyclical it is, right? When we started, Roland and I started back in, 2012, 2013, short erotica stories were like the big thing selling for self-publishers. And they were, 5,000 words. And you could pump those out quickly, sell them for $2.99, and then everything shifted and it became full-on romance novels were the thing. And so everyone sort of dropped that, moved on to full romance novels. And now it sounds like we're going back to these short stories that maybe are more than 5,000 words, but they're far less than 50 or 60,000 words. So, it is interesting to see how the market moves with everything, right?
The interesting thing about it is if you already have a book written and you've got the dialogue, basically you're pulling the dialogue out and giving the director directions. I mean, it's really quite amazing. But anyway, that's a bunny trail that we don't need to go down.
Oh, bunny trail. I haven't heard that phrase before.
Yeah. So, it's just good to know what's out there in the market and what some of the opportunities might be.
Yeah, and I think it's important for authors to hear about all the different options, right? Especially when it comes to marketing, and it's easier sometimes. Oh, actually, it can be harder too to write a compelling shorter story because you have to fit everything into that. But going back to what we were talking about before, with like the read through, and how you're putting all your marketing dollars into one book to sell a whole bunch. Like that's also something that. We've talked about this before, where it's like, when you're first advertising, marketing, it's harder to make a profit because of the cost of getting that one person in when you only have one book and that's all you can sell them. So even if it's a series or it's just that you've written a whole bunch of books, once you have more books, it's just easier. It becomes easier because you sell those, assuming that each one is good enough that people are going to want to read more than one. I mean, if everyone hates every book, then obviously it's different. But but yeah, and it's the same, even more so with a series. Like as long as book one is compelling enough that it's going to get most people to want to read the next few books, you can often, one of the strategies is even giving away book one so that it just draws more and more people into the series. Although then that has its own problems because free book readers don't always convert to paying readers, even if they like the story. Some people are just in it for all the free books. But that's a real issue. Kindle Unlimited has a setup, has readers thinking that they're getting all these free books. Now, obviously, Kindle Unlimited is a subscription, so you're paying, but you're really paying a nominal fee for access to a huge millions of books library. And I love, Kindle Unlimited for that. But I think it does build that mentality of books should be free, or why should you pay? I mean, when you look at the psychology of purchasing, of buying, the psychology of value, like in my books that were nonfiction, so if I sold them for $14.99 or $24.99, price points like that, I could take that exact same content and put it into an online course and sell it for $99, $149, $1,000. The perceived value of a book is unfortunately lower, and yet the content can be repurposed at a much, much higher, price point. And so we have to understand as authors that this is a volume buy. We not only have to sell lots of books at X price, but we also need lots of books to sell so that our readers can continue to consume what we're putting out. And that means that our output has to be ferocious. It has to be, we just have to ramp up. Every author has to ramp up the output. Yeah.
Which is not always sustainable.
Right. You can burn out doing that.
And that's only going to be good for business type books, right? You can't really turn your fantasy books into a course other than, unless you're writing and creating them like a Brandon Sanderson kind of model where you're putting out, videos on that. I guess, sure, there might be ways to do it. but most authors are not going to be able to turn their, I mean, unless we go that episode of route and have somebody, filming each bit, right?
Yeah.
But then that's
So-
a more expense too.
Yeah. So in fiction, where the big money is transferring to another form, which is
Right. Another medium.
Netflix, a series, a movie, and maybe maybe now verticals, so always looking for those things where you can extend your reach and extend your content and repurpose your content.
Right, but that's not as easy. Like you have to rely on another third party to be interested enough by it, put the money into it. Whereas if you want to turn a business book into a course, you can do that completely on your own.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's a completely different, a different thing in terms of the amount of time it takes and the amount of effort, any upfront money, all that stuff is completely different. Yeah.
And it's not so easy to just say, "Oh, I want to make my book into a movie." I mean, you need to. Somebody else has to agree. Somebody with deep pockets.
Let's do that. Where is the money to do that?
Yeah.
Right.
But I mean,
I think one thing I was going to say one thing that perhaps we don't think about as authors is the world has changed so much, and you're not really competing against other books on the market. You're competing for attention, and there are so many other places where people can put their attention now.
Yes, and it's very interesting too, because so many people don't read at all, and that breaks my heart. But we do have readers who read nonstop, and we love those people, and so we want to continue to provide product for them. We want to continue to provide good stories for them. I don't know what we need to do to get more people to read, but I think it's a tragedy that most adults only read one book after they graduate from high school. It's a sad statistic, really. But I think some of the newer genres and subcategories are pulling more people in, more readers, like fantasy. And we have this blending of genres that, is pulling people in. Fantasy, I mean, just this weekend I was at a party where everybody was talking about The Court of Thorn and Roses. I think I got the title right.
Mm-hmm.
Which is massive.
Yeah,
a massive commitment to a book, let alone a series. It's massive.
it is, and it's funny because you read that first book and then the second book kind of takes the whole series in a different direction. And there are some people who drop off with that and some people who love it.
Yeah. But I mean, people were wearing t-shirts, with apparently there are three mountain peaks that are iconic in the books. And I was just like, gosh, they're merchandising already. It's great. It's not even a movie yet.
Yeah, I think it's probably a matter of time before that one gets made into a movie.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
But I mean, but you can't really bank on having that level of success. Most authors, unfortunately, don't. Right. So, being able to sell your book just the regular way that the rest of us do, and in smaller amounts, it is about a volume game, like you said. Like you really do have to put it out.
Yeah, and I think so. I founded the Bold Authors Network at the beginning of the year. And the reason that I did that was I saw this gap in the marketplace. So there are a ton of people who are book coaches and writing coaches, right? I mean, there are a ton of really, really great programs and people who will teach you how to write a better book and how you can improve your craft. And that's really important because you need to have a good product. But then there's this gap between all the paid marketing and what do you do if you don't have a budget where you can put thousands into Facebook ads, right? What do you do? And so I started the Bold Authors Network to fill that gap. And so we recommend things like, this is a perfect example. Being a guest on a podcast is a tremendous strategy for authors to sell more books, because there are the opportunity to actually be in front of an audience where an audience can experience you as the author, hear about your books. That's really a priceless piece of marketing. And then to create author events where you're talking directly to your readers is really, really powerful. Going to conferences where there are book signings, things like Author Nation, which is coming up in November. And there are different conferences and book events all year long. And those, I hear from many, many authors that is an important piece of marketing for them. Now, that'll cost you some money to get the table, right? But you have that visibility and you have that personal interaction with authors. One of the things that's happening that's really good for us as authors, one of the things that's happening with AI is that AI can write books. It can write really good books. It can do a lot of things that authors are fighting right now. But what it can't do is it can't be you, the author. And so with the Bold Authors Network, our philosophy is to get the author out in front of the audiences as much as possible. And we do that through ways that we have a couple criteria for that marketing. And one is that the author is visible, and the author is obviously the spokesperson for the book, right? The face of the book, so to speak. But we are looking for things that are sustainable and things that last. And so we don't push heavy on social marketing. We push on guesting on podcasting because that lasts forever, right? That's always searchable. Google will find it. YouTube, if it's on YouTube, will find it. And then we really push authors to start a YouTube channel. And that can be them just doing readings or talking about their book or interviewing other authors or talking about the genre, talking about, just having that ability to be in front of their audience and have the audience experience them. And then creating author events. And those three things are personalized and they draw readers in closer. Now, obviously, those email newsletters that are like foundational, of course you do that. You build your list because that's the only thing you own, right? You don't own Facebook, you rent land there, and TikTok as well. TikTok is really interesting. I've been watching what's happening with the TikTok store, with the TikTok shop. Have you guys been watching that?
No. What's happening with that?
I mean, I know TikTok is a kingmaker in certain ways with for authors, and it's the question of like that organic thing or using it as a specific marketing tool.
Yeah, so there are people who are having really great success with TikTok Shop, and with TikTok Shop, your readers are going directly to TikTok Shop to buy directly from you. So what that impacts is the royalty that you get, and you get a higher royalty that way. And so it's a way of having an option, an alternative, or an add-on to Amazon. At the same time, Amazon's still the king of the hill. 75-80% of all books are bought through Amazon. So that's really where the market is, but we need to fill in the cracks, of the rest of the market as well. So TikTok Shop is one to watch for now, and we'll see, if somebody buys it or if it goes by the wayside. I don't think it's going to disappear, but
I think it's also worth. I noticed I sell my books directly now, and if I am advertising my books and driving people to my website, I notice that I still get an uptick in my sales on Amazon, even though I'm not sending people to Amazon. It's just like brand awareness.
Yes, and it's interesting. They call it the Amazon effect because, Amazon is a one-click buy. So when I go there, I don't have to find my credit card. I don't have to have all that. It's one click and it's done. And some people prefer that. So that's what's really cool with anything else that you do. It does help your Amazon sales as well.
Yeah, I think there's it's a trust issue too, right? If you go to some random author's website that you've never heard of, and do you really want to click buy and give them, your information and stuff, or you just go to Amazon, quickly search, find it there, buy it, it's safe.
Right. And you know that you can return it without a hassle.
Right.
And so, that's important too. I don't think very many people return books, but it happens occasionally.
It does happen more, unfortunately. I mean, Amazon's return policy was really, really too easy, and I think there was a period there where it was happening a lot more. I think they cracked down a little bit,
right?
But yeah. So with the TikTok shop, are you selling paperbacks, or can you sell ebooks as well?
Yeah, so I do not have a TikTok shop yet. I'm watching it and making a decision about that as a viable marketing approach or effort. But you can sell both. Yeah. So so book files will always deliver for you if it's a digital book. But with the TikTok shop where you're selling paperback, you've got to have fulfillment. So that's a different kind of commitment, like, are you gonna
that's where I was wondering about it.
Going to the post office.
Yeah, that's why I was wondering if somebody clicks buy, are they sending them the book, or is it still just going to be on you to figure out how to do that? Because I know that's one of the things with selling direct is you have to start taking on all that, and that's not as easy. You've got to pay for the shipping, and you've got to figure out the delivery method for ebooks and the return policy and this and that, right? So that's one of the reasons why everyone goes with Amazon. It's just, it takes care of everything for you, right? It's so easy. You just write your book and you upload it and you're done.
Well,
you got to market it, but I mean, you don't have to actually fulfill the sales.
Right, you don't have to fulfill it, and so it's a business decision, really, whether you're going to do that or not, because you got to have inventory for one thing. So you're putting out money to get inventory in, but so different people have different feelings about it, and see different results. The main driver is that you get a high percent of the royalty, but you do have costs associated with that. So there's always some costs that are going to come out of it. If you go with Amazon, you're getting a royalty, so you're not getting the full price either. So, yeah.
And Roland, you find when you're doing your sales, even though you have to, I guess you're just pushing the price of the shipping to the customer, I suppose, right? If you're fulfilling on or on paperbacks.
Oh, well, most of mine I sell via ebooks, to be honest. Actually. Yeah. But yes, I mean, then you'd include shipping as a thing. And it's kind of one of those things, because on Amazon, the books, individually printed paperbacks are not as cheap as you would like them to be, which I think is one of the really frustrating things. And as you said, if you're organized and you can buy that inventory, then you can make decent money doing it. But you have to lay out that money in advance. You have to have somewhere in your house you can keep these books and mail them out, and then hopefully you sell enough of them to make your money back. And that's quite a gamble. And that's where one area where traditional publishing still has things wrapped up, because they can invest $10,000 in I don't know however many copies of this book. And so
I think if you have a large following and you want to sell direct, it's going to be easier. Because you're going to have people who are coming for your book and your series, book after book after book. And maybe even, I know a lot of people who sell direct actually sell in bundles. And so that helps to control the cost as well, if you're selling in bundles.
Roland, you do that as well, right? You have a bundle. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the way you can make it profitable. That's really the big advantage, is you sell 6 books at one time rather than 1 book at a time.
Right. So that's helpful too. Yeah.
And then, so I mean, you'd mentioned before about giving away a lot of copies, right? With the paper, with the bookmark in it. So you're obviously giving away the paperbacks, which you have to buy from Amazon, I assume, is where you're getting it print on demand, right? And that's still going to cost you, because, like you're saying, it's not that cheap. You still, even an author copy is still going to be, probably, I would guess, $7 or $8. Probably.
Yeah. So My author copies cost just under $5, I think.
Okay.
Around
Shipped too?
$5.
Shipped as well?
Well, Amazon ships them for free, right?
Oh, even the author copies? Yeah, I wasn't sure if I thought they
Yeah, I
might
think,
charge you profit,
you know what? They might
because they're not
charge
making a
me.
profit.
They might charge me for shipping on that. So here's how I do the math. So let's just say the book cost me $5. I give it to one person. I ask for a review. I ask them to pass it on. I get feedback from probably 50% of the people that I give books to. I get feedback from, and many of them do pass it on. And so when initially I didn't have that bookmark with the QR code for reviews in it, when I put that bookmark in, I actually noticed the reviews going up. So I
that's
knew
great.
that so I knew that was working. And then also, I'm sure you guys know this, but a tip for your viewers and listeners is, you can put that QR code in the back of the paperback
Right.
format on Amazon, because, and I do it, some people tell me, some other authors think I'm doing an overload, but like with each book, there you go. Yes, exactly. With each book, I put the QR codes for the sales book of the series, the books in the series before it. So like book 4 will have the purchase page for book 1, 2, and 3. Just in case that person got it and they don't have 1, 2, and 3.
That's great.
Yeah. And then I put in the review QR code as well. So everything within the book, starts to market the book itself, even to the point where, the keywords, if you can have keywords on the cover, in your description, your bio, instead of saying I'm a best-selling author, I would say I am a best-selling coming-of-age genre author. So I'm putting those keywords in there so that wherever it's being used, whether it's being searched by Google or now by AI or by Amazon, all of that is like juice for the algorithms.
Gosh, we ought to
Yeah.
have you back to go through sort of like a bullet list for authors when they're how to do that.
Yes. And if you start a book and you understand marketing, you will write that book and produce that book differently. And it will be much more powerful for the algorithm than when I sat down and wrote my first book every night from 10 to midnight for 3 months straight. I didn't know what I was missing in terms of feeding the algorithm. I just wrote the book. The next 3, I knew what I was supposed to do, and they got written differently.
Oh, that's right. Well, unfortunately, we're approaching the top of the hour. I think we could this is almost a topic of conversation we could dedicate a whole other episode to. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, we have to wrap things up. Before I ask Kate to tell everyone where they can find her books, Craig, do you have any final questions?
No, but it's been fascinating, and I was thinking about all sorts of different things while you're going, and so I agree that having you on again would probably easily fill up. This time went by very, very fast. Lots of great ideas that I think people will be able to use. So thanks again for coming on and sharing your time with us and your ideas.
You bet.
So, Kate, where can people come and find your books, find out more about you?
So you can find the Frankie Girl series, Saturday Night at the Trailer Park is the first book, and that is on Amazon. You can find me at www.kaewagner, Kae Wagner, WAGNER.com. And you can find the prologue, the free prologue for the book is at www.kaewagner.com. And if you are an author and in the bookish world and want to know more about publishing and marketing and sales promotion, and at the end of the day, sell a whole lot more books, then join us at www.boldauthors.network.com. Every Monday from 4 to 5 p.m., we hold promo hour. And Promo Hour is free for authors who want to promote their books, sell more books, be part of a community that supports, encourages, and collaborates. So we welcome all authors, fiction, nonfiction, all genres, to Promo Hour every Monday from 4 to 5 p.m. Eastern.
Well, that's brilliant. We will pop a link down below in the description so you can go and check out.
Wonderful.
And while you're down there, if you want to scroll down and click on that link, there's that empty comment box. Why don't you leave Kae a comment and let her know how much you appreciated everything she shared with us today? And maybe we'll hopefully have her back in the future to talk a little bit more about it. There's also that like button and that subscribe button and that little bell icon. If you click on that, you will get notified every time there is a new episode of Fully Booked. And of course, there will be a brand new episode of Fully Booked coming out this time next week. So until then, cheerio.